More about Mu. So I did a video recently about the koan, the Zen koan. What is Mu? M-U. And so I wanted to do a follow-up because a lot of people had good questions about this. And I wanted to address those in this video and kind of dial in a little bit more about what I mean when I talk about Mu. So the first question someone asked is a good question. Do I recommend working with Mu without a Zen teacher? And my answer was kind of a smart-ass answer because I'm a smart-ass. And I said, well, a Zen teacher might tell you not to work with Mu without a Zen teacher, but I'm not a Zen teacher, so I don't have to worry about those constraints so much. Let me unpack that a bit. There's certainly value to working with any spiritual practice, but specifically Mu. What is Mu? There's certainly value to working with that, with a teacher who's realized, and that's the key. Hopefully you're not in a position of teaching unless they're realized to some degree, but it can certainly be helpful, right, to help you sort of dial into what's actually being pointed to there and so forth. And would Zen teachers tell you that you have to have a Zen teacher to work with Mu? I think probably many would. I'm sure all of them wouldn't necessarily, but it's probably recommended. I'm sure there are people out there who would think it's like completely absurd to believe you could work with Mu without a teacher. I don't agree with that. That I don't fall in that category. So for me, like everything I do, or with everything I do, hopefully the underlying message or one of the important underlying messages is you don't need anyone to realize, recognize, awaken to your true nature, which is kind of self-explanatory. And it really is that simple. It's your true nature. It's your true nature. And it's probably a much bigger fixation or misunderstanding to overly depend on a teacher than to do the opposite, where you kind of take it on yourself too much. Some interaction with a teacher, whether it could even be asymmetric through texting, it could be through video, could be even non-personal through a book, through videos they make. But some interaction with the teacher is going to occur along this process, almost certainly. But do you need a formal Zen practice, Zen teacher in person or over video to work with Mu? You don't necessarily, in my opinion. Why do I believe that? Well, I didn't have one, and it worked for me. Many people who wake up without that one-on-one interaction, whether it's through the use of a koan like what is Mu, or a question like who am I, or a question like where am I, or the just orientation to surrender. There's so many sort of ways in the relative. In the absolute sense, where the relative meets the absolute, there's only one way. There's only one true nature. Yeah, that's the big cosmic joke. But you can't intellectually satisfy yourself that way. You might, but it won't be deeply satisfying. It won't be getting to the sort of root of unsatisfactoriness in life, and the confusion and the delusion won't be dispelled in the way it is with a shift in identity. And it does happen, and much of it is dispelled. A lot gets corrected with that shift. That is really the beginning rather than the end of the true spiritual unfolding, but a lot happens there. And so that can happen without a formal teacher. Of course it can. And the beauty of Mu, what is Mu or Mu, is it's a ridiculously simple approach. It's so simple. So simple. I don't know if it gets simpler. In part because your mind can't do anything with it at all. Your mind can't even get a foothold, a toehold. Thoughts just can't do anything with Mu unless you just indulge thoughts, in a kind of haphazard way. But anyone introducing the koan, a teacher, or watching a video like this, one of the first things you're going to learn is what I'm talking about when I say Mu is nothing that your mind is constructing. That's it, period. It's not a thought. It's not a concept, right? You would think that would clear out a lot of the questions about, conceptual questions and labeling questions and context questions and history questions about Mu. You would think it would, but it doesn't so much, which is fine. We still have to go through those paces. And the first pace is actually letting it settle in what I mean when I say it's not a conceptual contemplation. It's not. So the questions that come often, and they did with this last video I made, are things like this. like sort of a logical argument, trying to almost like talk me into giving you a definition or something. And this is an honest question, and it's a sincere question. So I'm not making fun of the question. I'm just kind of framing it. It's like an argument, right? Like, well, to know what something means, you have to know the definition so that you can dial into it, so you can, hone into something. How can you hone into something if you don't know what it is you're honing into, and so forth? And I understand that line of thinking, but again, it's not about thoughts. It's not about labels, and it's not about definitions. So when you start with mu, maybe you ask yourself, what is mu? And your mind says, oh, I need a definition for it, because if I don't have a definition, then I can't narrow it down, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm saying to you is that is a thought. When that happens in real time, when you contemplate mu in real time and your mind starts doing that, that's a thought. It's okay that it's there, but that's not what I'm pointing to, right? I'm pointing to mu, which is not a thought. I'm pointing to the truth of mu. When you ask yourself, what is mu, and don't accept a thought answer. So the instruction is, okay, when your mind does that, when your mind makes a conceptual argument for why you need a definition, and then you recognize that it's only a thought, and then I say to you, okay, put that thought aside and ask yourself, what is mu? Where does your attention go now? And it may go to another thought, and then I'll say, that's another thought. Okay. Ask the question again, what is mu? Where can your attention go aside from two thoughts? Aside from into the mind, aside from labeling, aside from concepts, where else could your mind go? Where else could your attention go? Right? That's where I'm pointing. I'm pointing you to something that's going to feel rather mysterious. The initial experience of the mysterious to the psyche, to the identified mind, is something like frustration, a kind of dismissal of the process, maybe. Or this belief, like, I don't understand it. If I could just understand it, it would clear this up. Like, all of those are really still identifying with thoughts to some degree. But if you do it enough times, you keep coming back to this. Well, what is mu then? Like, I believe there's actually an answer. I believe there's a solution to this question. I believe it points somewhere important. So I ask again, what is it? And I'm getting to the point where I can recognize those thoughts and just don't get engaged. Just disregard it as it pops up. And yet the question's going somewhere. It's propagating somehow. It seems to be leading into this sort of mystery. And when you start to get through those like frustrations with the mind and those distractions of the mind, or even a disassociation, all the little tricks the mind plays to try to somehow get you back into the mind, right? When you've kind of seen through those, now you start to enter the mystery in a very direct way. You feel the mysteriousness that this leads to. Okay, this can take some time, by the way. This may not happen in a day or a week or a month, maybe not even a year. But it will happen at some point when you don't grab onto thoughts or conceptual answers, yet you keep asking the question. You have something behind it. You have true curiosity behind it. You'll start to feel that mysterious something that is sort of where the question's leading. That's not the answer. That's not awakening, but it is something. It's something instinctually important. And you'll usually feel that. Something in you will know, oh, okay. Oh, there's something here. Yeah, this is different. It's mysterious. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's really heady. I can't stop the thoughts sometimes. Other times, the thoughts are getting very quiet now, and there's this mysteriousness, right? And then you'll say, is that mu? And I'll say, well, the word mystery is not mu, and the concept of mystery is not mu. And the experience, though, that experience of mystery, like, that's much closer. It's much closer. It's not quite mu yet, because there's still duality there. And this is where the pointing of, like, don't separate from mu, even the slightest. You have to separate from mu enough to call it a mystery, right? To say, oh, mu must be this mystery. Do you see the duality there? It's subtle, more subtle than thoughts, but it's still duality. So just mu, just right back to mu. Right back to that. And when you're back into that mystery, back engaging that mystery, back engaging mu without labeling it mystery or mu, right? This gets to this one pointed place. Now, at this point, you don't even have to ask, what is mu? It's just mu. Just don't separate yourself from it at all. And the only thing that really can separate you is a thought here. So just don't grab onto the thoughts and just stay on that iron rail that goes on to infinity. Moo. Take it through the day. Take it with you through the night. Take it with you off to sleep. Take it with you when you wake up. Don't entertain thoughts. Don't get on the doubt train. Don't get on the concept train. Don't get on the Dharma, doctrine train. Don't let your mind wander. Don't let your mind take you away from this. You've been doing it all your life, right? Since you've learned to think and started becoming identified with thoughts, the mind has taken you for a ride. All of us. It's done it to all of us. Like a dog on a leash, right? But don't pull anymore. Don't pull on that leash, and then the leash won't be leading you around. Just stay focused. Stay right there with moo. Just moo. Until there's just moo, mooing, moo. Moo walking, moo talking, moo sitting, moo standing. That's it. Stay with it. As if your life depended on it. As if your realization depends on it. There's a surrender here that comes into play. Surrendering to moo such that there is only moo. There's no one thinking about it anymore. There's no one needing something from it anymore. There's no one conceptualizing it anymore. No one using it to try to stabilize an identity anymore. Just moo, moo, moo. That's where you're supposed to go. That's where the pointing takes you.